Hi, welcome to Bleav in Clemson football. I am Will Vandervort. That is Ashby Mixon. This is instant analysis from Clemson's spring game. This is a new feature that we're going to start doing. I think me and Ashby, we're going to see how it goes. But Ashby, I think this is something we can probably do every football game if people are interested in it, and kind of get that instant take from me and you because we're at the games and kind of give an analysis of what we just saw and everything like that. And that's kind of what today is. We got done about both of us just got done writing probably in the last 30 minutes or so. As I don't know if people out there know, but we got a lot of writing we do after the games are over. So while you guys are going home and everything, we're talking to the coaches and players and then getting our stories and getting everything together, if you will. So anyway, as I said, my partner in crime right here is Ashby Mixon. Ashby, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. I think this is a great idea you had, Will, because I know as a fan, for me, when I get done watching the game, I want to go watch the press conference. And then after that, I kind of just have to sit with my thoughts. So I hope to provide some instant analysis, what we saw from being at Memorial Stadium today and in the future. I think it'd be fun to keep this going.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun too, and it's something we'll hope to, as we go along and do this more and more, we'll get better at it and faster at it, and maybe add a few wrinkles here, maybe a quote or two there from Coach Swinney, or some players or something as we go along. But we appreciate you guys joining us. I know it's an Elite Eight Saturday, and you guys are probably watching basketball, but hey, this is Clemson. We don't talk about basketball. We talk about football at Clemson. No offense, Coach Brownell. I love you. You know I do. And you know I love basketball. But it is what it is today because we're talking Clemson football and spring practice. If there was a basketball game, if we were at the Elite Eight, I think, Ashby, that's what we'd be talking about, right? Let's be honest.
Look, if Clemson went to their second Elite Eight in 3 years, I would be A-okay, not talking about the spring game, and we'd be talking all basketball. But it's kind of fun to be able to look forward, look ahead. You just had the basketball season in. Last year's football season was disappointing. So to be able to kind of look forward and go to a game where you have nothing to do but look at the glass half full because there's no record yet, it's pretty fun. And it's kind of fun to have that kind of analysis after a game.
It is. Usually me and Ashby are doing, if you guys listen to the Tiger pregame show on 105.5 The Roar FM in the upstate, the flagship station for Clemson Athletics, you would know me and Ashby are always analyzing the before the game, as we did this morning with William Qualkenbush. And so me and Ashby, we've been at it since 8:30 this morning. Going into Memorial Stadium. So we said, you know what, Ashby, let's just add one more thing to our plate. We do the pregame, we do the game. Now let's do the postgame, right? It kind of goes all hand in hand, right?
Well, when you pitched this idea to me, I think the first words out of my mouth were, wow, Will, we are really going to reach our word count for the day. We have done a lot of talking today. I have mad respect for Qualk and all those guys that do the halftime show, the pregame show, the postgame show. So they do great work. And we always have a lot of thoughts after the game, and usually we just say them to each other amongst ourselves, bring in JP, whoever else is with us kind of in it. But excited to bring in you guys, and we'll have more nuanced thoughts in the 5 months between now and September 5th when Clemson opens their season against LSU. But these are just kind of first impressions and thoughts right out of the gate. So excited to be here tonight.
Yeah, and let's get to it. Our first impression, first of all, obviously Bleav in Clemson football is presented by FanDuel. I should have started off with that, so I apologize to my sponsor there. Go over to FanDuel Sportsbook and get all the odds. If you want to see where the Tigers next year are going to be, where they're predicted by Vegas and FanDuel in the I think number 4 in the conference in the ACC going into the season. They also got how many games you think the Tigers are going to win. You got all that good stuff over there as well. Plus, NBA playoffs are about to start up. There's this thing going on called the NCAA basketball tournament. There's a lot of things to do over there. So go on and check out the guys over at FanDuel Sportsbook. And we appreciate them as always being a sponsor to Bleav in Clemson football. And also want to give a shout out to the Clemson Insider for obviously allowing us to use this platform and to do what we need to do on the show each and every week when we do our Bleav in Clemson football podcast. So go on over to the Clemson Insider for all the latest updates for the most complete coverage of Clemson athletics. Check it out. we got everything right now in the spring game. We got you covered. So go check it out. JP's getting done with the baseball game just a little while ago. Unfortunately, the Tigers fell 8-6 to Miami. A late comeback ended there late, but they did give it a good go. But anyway, Miami takes that series 2-1. Florida, we got the softball update as well over there. Softball lost to Florida State. Another heartbreaker again today for the Lady Tigers over there as they drop a 4-2 game to Florida State and lose that series. So they got game 3 of that series tomorrow over, and Ashby will be covering that game over McWhorter Stadium. So you can check Ashby stories out. And, of course, we got everything in the spring game. And that's what we're going to talk about here in just a second. One more sponsor, though. I got to make sure I'm getting my bills paid because that's how only we can do this. Like to also thank Smoke on the Water for being a sponsor with us again this year. You can go on over to Smoke on the Water at 64 Beacon Drive off Restaurant Row, off Pelham Road in Greenville, South Carolina. Smoke on the Water will be opening real soon here in the spring. The all-new Smoke on the Water will feature the same famous smoked meats it had before: pulled pork, brisket, beer butt chicken, and prime rib. But a few new things will appear on the menu as well. They'll also have their signature 5 barbecue sauces that will be there to complement, not smother, any of the smoked meats you get. Like before, the all-new Smoke on the Water will have Greenville's best happy hour, and it will still feature live acoustic acts. Smoke on the Water, owned by Mike Schuler, has been a staple in Greenville for over 18 years, and they want to continue to do that in their new location. So right now, go on over to the all-new Smoke on the Water, which is available for catering and has its food truck. For more information, 864-232-9091. Again, call 864-232-9091. The all-new Smoke on the Water, 64 Beacon Drive on Restaurant Row off of Pelham Road. Again, if you need to get some catering and stuff before they open, it's 232-9091. All right, Ashby, the news of the day was without a doubt after the game. Dabo was asked about the fact that if you were there, the 25,000 people were there, you notice Chris Denson did not get into play until the start of the third quarter. He was the 5th quarterback to play. Dabo Swinney was asked about that. Like, was that a reason behind why he was? And Dabo said, yeah, pretty much that's the rotation. Yes, Chris Denson is the 5th quarterback on Clemson's roster. Your thoughts?
I think ahead of spring practice and certainly after the season last year, that is not what I anticipated hearing at all. You know, Denson goes in against Furman, the fabled Furman game that everybody associates with Chris Denson, in which he completed 4 passes. And it seemed like he was trending up. You heard a lot about him from his teammates, from coaches, a lot of high praise. We saw him over at the Pro Day just a couple of weeks ago, talking to everybody, talking to coaches. And, you know, as the game started, as it kind of progressed, you saw Christopher Vizina and you saw Tate Reynolds. And you and I looked at each other and started saying, you know, where is Denson? But what point does he come in? At what point does Christopher Vizina conclude his day? And that just kept getting pushed back and pushed back. And when Denson did get in, it wasn't really much to say. I think he went 3 and out on his one drive. But huge news there for 1 month of practice, 1 month with Chad Morris, for them to make the decision that, yeah, there are other guys that are more qualified and are going to be more ready to play sooner rather than later. So big time news, kind of jarring news that we had heard about him in the last few weeks. It feels sudden, but I'm sure that it wasn't.
Yeah, and so that was the news there. The other part of that news was that true freshman Tate Reynolds is now moved into number 2. And Dabo even said that Christopher Vizina and Tate Reynolds have separated from the rest of the pack during the spring. They are clearly the number 1 and number 2 guys going into summer workouts. Dabo was asked, okay, is there a competition? Can Reynolds really push CV for the starting job? And Ashby, he says, absolutely. And he made no bones about it. Like, this is going to be a competition. And so they went from 5 quarterbacks to 2, and it was pretty obvious that those were the 2 guys they wanted to see, because that pretty much the whole first half was Christopher Vizina and Tate Reynolds.
The writing was kind of on the wall for Tate Reynolds to be the number 2 guy. I know media availability in the last couple of weeks, we saw him running with the 2s, and When Chad Morris was asked about it a few days ago, he said, "Oh, it was just his day to be there," which makes it pretty clear that they were going to kind of unveil this.
His day to be the number 2 guy.
His day, right? Which at the time you were like, okay, whatever. But clearly, Tate has separated himself, and from the first day that we saw him, he looks the part. He's a tall kid. He's a big kid. He's strong. And there's none of that undersized freshman thing going on with him. Like, he looks as developed as Vizina to me.
Mm-hmm.
And he's clearly shown that, yeah, I'm ready to play. This is a guy that was coming off an injury his senior year of high school. I don't think he even got to play his senior year. And so for him to be able to be that ready to come to college is also really encouraging looking forward as to where he could be 6 months from now or a year from now.
Yeah, and other part of that news with Denson was that Dabo made it seem like, and I asked the question to follow up, like, does this mean he's going to move to another position? Because of the way Dabo Swinney was like, I hope he wants to play quarterback. If he does, we want him to stay and play quarterback. But Dabo kept like, there's a but if he wants to. And so I asked Dabo, would he be moving to another position? Is that possible? And Dabo admitted, yeah, that's possible, because he said, but if he wants to play quarterback, we'll make that work too, because they want him on the field. They'll find ways to use him because his athletic ability and what he can do. But it sounds like to me, Ashby, that they're kind of pushing the young man to say, hey, and Dabo's words were this: the reason he's behind is because he's just not at the level he needs to be to compete as a passer. So I think that's why they want to push him to maybe go to another position, because he is a heck of an athlete. He's very fast. He's very talented. Find different ways to get him the football and get him on the field, because he is one of your better athletes. What were your thoughts on that? Were you surprised, as everybody else was, when Dabo pretty much hinted that he's going to move to another position possibly?
Certainly was surprised. But when I think about it, there is kind of a precedent there. I think back to about a year and a half ago when Adam Randall, out of nowhere, decides he's going to be a running back. And that's kind of sent shockwaves everywhere. You find out that conversation between Randall and Swinney is essentially Coach Swinney saying, Adam, what are you best at? And he said, it's when I have the ball in my hands. And because of that, they set up kind of a program to get him transitioned, and he ended up having a lot of success. And that's a recent example. So there is a precedent there for guys that they really like being able to make that move. My question is then, does Denson want to do that, or does he want to play quarterback? Because it seems like if this had been known a couple months ago, would have been very likely that he hits the transfer portal, right? So This feels like they got into practice, they got into a new scheme, and with the style that Chad Morris runs, his talents didn't necessarily line up with that.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see what he does. Does he move to running back? Does he move to wide receiver? Does he stay at quarterback? Because Dabo says it's going to be his choice. If he wants to stay at quarterback, they'll figure something out, and he can play quarterback. But he said they'll get him on the field, right? So I think Dabo wants to get him on the field, and I think he wants to try to do it in any way. It reminds me of this guy named Chancey Stuckey that played here at Clemson. Went on to be an all-ACC wide receiver. He played quarterback his freshman year, and actually played for Dabo after that at wide receiver. That he wanted to move because he wanted to get on the field, so he moved to wide receiver and became an all-ACC caliber player, and then went on to play in the NFL. And so when I look at Chris Denson, I see a little bit of Chancey Stuckey there. I really do. By the way, also a lefty. Kind of a lot of familiarity there, and or some similarities, I should say. And does he, because Dabo kind of show him that it's like, hey, I've been down this road before with the guy. Yeah, it was a long time ago, but here's a guy we moved to wide receiver, and he became an all ACC. He trusted us. He trusted the system. He trusted the coaches and what they saw, and he became an all ACC and went on to play a long time in the NFL. That could be you. Now, of course, Chancey Stuckey's a college football coach too. So a lot of good things there if you're going to use Chancey Stuckey as an example. But so I'll be interested to see. But Ashby, I think a lot of people want to hear more about the quarterback play because, what did they do? Okay, we know Tate Reynolds was second team guy, but how did he do? Did pretty good. 6 for 8, 68 yards, and a touchdown. His rushing numbers didn't look good because they were playing tag. Tag, you're it and it's a sack. And so, his rushing yards minus 10 yards. He actually had way more than that. Probably had 30 yards or so rushing. He did have a touchdown. Now, he had a 1 yard rushing touchdown. The play before that, we'll get into this here in a little bit. Dabo Swinney called him out and says, you got to pull the ball. So he pulls the ball and he scores. So Dabo's like, see, I told you. I'm sure Tate Reynolds love hearing that. I told you so, right after that. But that's what happened. He scores a touchdown. The funny thing is Dabo's telling him to pull the ball and the defense still fell for it. That's the thing that got me. It's just like, man, I'll be waiting. About the defensive end.
Somewhere Tom Allen is like, oh my goodness, what is going on?
Yeah, I don't know who was on that. I might have been. Was it Mayo at that time? Was Mayo on that end?
I want to say it was Mayo. Maybe. Yeah, I want to say it was him and one of the transfers were up in there on that first play.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's kind of funny. But and then as far as Christopher Zena goes, he was 10 for 18, 95 yards and a touchdown. The 8 incompletions, though, I would say probably 3 or so are not his fault. There's a couple drops in there. There was also a couple guys not running the right routes. And so he probably was more like 16 for 18, should have been for like 135 yards and a touchdown, or maybe even 2 touchdowns. Because one, if the guy does what he's supposed to do, it's a house call probably. So anyway, just your thoughts on those 2 quarterbacks as far as playing quarterback and what you saw out of those 2 guys.
Well, I'll start with Tate Reynolds because that's kind of where, the big headline was today. And my biggest takeaways from him were, number 1, he looked fully healthy. He looked ready to play. 2, he looked decisive. I like the decisions that Tate Reynolds made for the most part. I think he got flagged for a couple of sacks. But like you kind of mentioned, that's pretty negligible in the spring game because any kind of touch ever is a sack, right? I think he looked confident. You have to remember that's his first time at Memorial Stadium with a completely new offense and freshman wide receivers. So with all of those factors, he was incredibly impressive to me in that way. Now, he's still got things to work on. He had a couple moments that I was like, that wasn't awesome. But for the most part, he was very impressive to me. And Chris Rivazino was right there with him. It just didn't stand out as much to me because that's kind of what you expect from somebody who's your, quote, pole position guy, right? And Dabo emphasized that again today. After spring, he's still number 1 on the leaderboard. He's still in the pole position. He's carrying him on. But the gap to me did not look incredibly wide between those 2, at least with what we got to see today. And we're not at practice every day. We don't know. But I was encouraged by both of their play, especially when you take into account that guys like a Bryant Wesco, a TJ Moore, an Olsen Pat Henry, none of them were able to play with what you're working with. Pretty successful day for the offense, in my opinion. Willie V, I cannot hear you.
That's because I had my mute button on. That's clearing my throat a second ago. First of all, I've seen a lot of comments from you guys in the comment section. Please keep commenting or ask questions. We'll get to those here in just a second. But yeah, Ashby, if you were there, you noticed that if you were at the stadium watching it, how Clemson's offense was stacked and their defense was stacked. The orange team was loaded. Let's just,
call it what it is.
Just call it what it is. The white team had no chance in this game. Qualk set the line at 13.5, and doggone it if he didn't cover.
Man, we said it was. I thought it was going to be lower than that. I really did. No.
Yeah, and he said we set the over and under at 31, right? And it was 26.
We were pretty close there.
So he was pretty close. Qualk did a good job on it. I think Qualk knows a thing or 2 about gambling. I might want to talk to Leah about that. Anyway, I'm just kidding. Qualk is definitely not a guy that does that stuff, but he does participate in FanDuel stuff, and so we're all good with that. But anyway, I thought like the game itself, though, the orange offense looked really, really good. And I thought for the most part, the things I saw, and I wish I could go back and watch some, but the game's not on tape, so I can't go back and watch it. But from what I saw, I really liked what I saw out of quarterback play. I liked what I saw out of Gideon Davison.
Mm-hmm.
I liked what I saw the future could look like with some of those receivers, the young receivers. I think they, when we talk about a Sellers, he had a touchdown, a nice one-handed touchdown catch. I mean,
Backside.
backside shoulder, and he makes a nice one-handed catch, going before he goes out of bounds for the touchdown. Kind of gives you a glimpse of what he could be like in the future, I think. I thought Burrow showed some promise as well with a couple of catches. I think he had 3 catches, 28 yards or something like that.
Yes.
So I was impressed with them, right? But then at the same time, I'm like, well, they were stacked. And it's not like that other side, it's like they weren't going against, the big time guys over on the defensive side either. So, and the same thing goes for the defensive side. So really, I'm still kind of like, okay, what did I see? How much of it can I really soak in? I don't want to get caught up in the, oh my gosh, this guy looks great, or this guy looks great. Oh my gosh, this guy's unbelievable. Because if you do that, then you're going to get messed up, right? Because that's not what you're looking at. You got to look at some different things. So I really paid attention to Fazina's footwork. His footwork, he looked very comfortable in the pocket, even with guys that are able to tag him. And that means your clock of your head is going off faster because you got even less time to get a ball off. And I thought he looked pretty comfortable in the pocket for the most part, stepped up really good. And when I watched Reynolds, most of the time he looked good, but there were a couple times you could tell he's a freshman.
Yes.
And he ran into a couple sacks, if you will, and then like Dabo got onto him that one time for not pulling the ball when he should have pulled the football. And so there were some of those freshman moments out of Reynolds, but I thought his first time playing in front of 25,000 people, clearly the biggest crowd he's played in front of too. I thought he handled it pretty well, and then as far as the defense goes, I thought overall they played okay. There was nothing that said, oh my gosh, look how great they're going to be. Because again, were they really sacks? They got 10 sacks as a defense, but I don't really know. One thing I did notice from the defense was the communication was really good. They, like I said, they were stacked, right? So they made sure Elliott Washington and Ashton Hampton and Corey Myrick and Jerome Carter were all on the same team. And that communication, you could see those guys were comfortable playing with each other, with Sammy Brown and those guys. I thought overall the defense looked okay, not anything to write home about because there was no turnovers in the game. Elliott Washington dropped the only one that would have been a pick six, which
That's what I was going to say.
Which I called in the pregame show, would have been a pick six, but he went with the wrong hand. And if he goes more inside instead of outside, he's probably taking it to the house and it's a touchdown. Instead, it turned out to be like a 25-yard gain for Juju. So your thoughts, Ashby, just on all that I just threw out there, which was a lot.
Well, let's start with kind of what you said about the offense. Going into this, Will, I'm going to be so honest with you. I had very, very low expectations for the offense based on what we heard after the last scrimmage, which was they didn't look great. You heard a lot of yelling as we were going into Coach Swinney's press conference after the last scrimmage at Death Valley, and he pretty much said afterwards, yeah, none of the quarterbacks were good enough, none of the receivers were good enough, and the defense looks all world, was my takeaway from that. And either they've gotten a lot better since then offensively, or they just kind of figured out some mistakes, because they definitely held their own with a defense that was definitely stacked. And, you never really had the ones on the ones at any point in the game, which I agree with you. It's a little bit tough to tell what's going on there, but they were significantly better than I expected. They were moving the ball. I thought it was a much more entertaining spring game than last year, because last year I felt like there were a million just 3 and out again and again and again. And you saw them piece together some really good drives. So that was encouraging. On the other side of it, you heard London Merritt's name a lot today. I think of all the transfers, he was probably the guy that had the most production. Elliott Washington had a really solid game, was so close to a pick. Oh my goodness, Will, I thought you had it.
I
from your
did too.
prediction.
And you knew
and-
I was going to let everybody know it.
Oh, you were going to say it for the rest of eternity that you called it. Listen, I know you well. But I was encouraged by them, and the defense definitely still has some work to do. Offense certainly still has some work to do. But to you, we talked a lot, wrote a lot leading up to this about these transfer guys and the Corey Myricks and the Jerome Carters of the world. What did you kind of see from them today outside of the communication on the field? Do you think that they adapted to the Tom Allen scheme?
Well, one thing we didn't see is busted coverages. I mean,
Great point.
let's just call it. Last year, the spring game, we saw that. Remember, I brought up the Tristan Smith touchdown the other night when we were all talking, and that's something we didn't see in this year's spring game. I think it was you that noticed and said there hadn't really been but one long pass the entire game.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. So so that's the thing I noticed is that we didn't notice them, and that's the ultimate thing. You don't want to notice your safety. Right. And then another thing I noticed, if I'm not mistaken there. Sorry, I got to do the little with my finger up top there, but I'm trying to get the stats to go. Let me look at the defensive stats here, Ashby. If I'm not mistaken, let's see. Okay. Yeah, I'm right. None of the safeties are among the top tacklers on either side. So that is a good sign.
Yes, it is.
That's a really good sign. You don't want your safeties leading the team in tackles. You don't want your safeties really leading the team in interceptions either. And because that means the corners are getting beat too bad. There's things that are happening. So the fact that your safety's job is to just make sure nothing gets past him. And yeah, he does pick it off. If he's playing, it's called safety for a reason. He's the last line of defense, right? So the fact that the safeties didn't stand out at all, that means they did their job, in my opinion. And so, it's like an offensive lineman. I thought Elliott Washington flashed today. There's no doubt that guy is a ball player. You recognize him when he's out there. You could just see And listen, it's like having Mel Blount and Mel Blount across from each other. And what I mean by that is I don't mean they're going to be Hall of Fame cornerbacks. What I mean is they're both like 6'1", 6'2", 200 pounds, and they can jump out of a building. Like, you're pretty good there. There's nothing against Avion, but they're nobody 5'9". You know what I'm saying? Like, these guys are good sized corners, and they're physical, and you could tell. And one part, Dabo, and like I said, we're gonna get on to Dabo and the microphone here in a second because we've had some people y'all are asking about that. Dabo and the microphone and, getting on to guys. Well, early in the game, he got on to Tyler Brown because one of the freshman defensive back. No, it wasn't a freshman back. It was a transfer.
Donovan Starr
Basically rode Tyler Brown straight out of bounds. No, you're not getting this catch, dude. He just rolled him straight out of bounds. They were trying to do a wheel route with Tyler Brown. He was having none of it. He was having none of it. He just bullied him straight out of bounds. And Dabo just got all over Tyler Brown. Says, Tyler Brown, what are you doing, man? And it was at the comment when he says, you're not an Uber driver. You can't drive him. You can't drive him down the field.
There were some, listen, we'll talk about this in a second, but there were some all-time Dabo quotes today from the spring game. And Tyler Brown turned it around after that, ended up as the leading receiver on any team. I think 5 catches for 50 yards, somewhere in there. But that right out of the gate was impressive to me because Starr had been a guy that Allen said he's right there, right? Like, he's kind of just under the other guys. But for him to come out, immediately make a play like that against your most tenured receiver on the whole team that's playing today, that's some big-time stuff right out of the gate.
Absolutely it is. And so, all right, Ashby, just wanted to get your thoughts on Dabo with the microphone. I'm just going to honestly say it. I would love to have Dabo Swinney mic'd up when we can hear it the whole game. Because was that not fun? That was fun to me.
It was fun. I would like to have Dabo Swinney mic'd up going to like Publix because I feel like the commentary would be great there too. Let's keep it like it is. Yeah, he's been mic'd up in the past, right? And we've heard him kind of encourage people during warm-ups or kind of get the fans involved, talk at the end. We're going to do the alma mater. But it was a little bit different this time in that, man, he was calling people out. If you messed up, if you had a boneheaded decision or a mental error, you were going to hear about it from your head coach. And for the 25,000 people that were in there today, that's kind of what we experience when we get to go to the practices. Like when we get to go to the however many periods, that's what's fun about it, because you get to hear exactly what his thought process is, and it guides our line of questioning. So for those people that Dabo was criticizing and for the ones that he was really hyping up, you saw that translate to his post-game presser of what stood out to him. So I loved it. I love getting able to kind of get inside what he's thinking, what the coaching staff is thinking. And this is funny too. Sometimes when he had moments where he wanted to do like a one-on-one coaching situation, he'd turn that mic right off.
Thank goodness.
There was a moment with Brock Bradley where he had just told Tate to pull the ball. He wanted Brock to give it, right? And he ended up getting sacked in the end zone. And he went over to him, had about 30 seconds where the two of them just kind of chatted, patted him on the back, and then went back to play. So it wasn't like he was just calling people out the whole time. There was still that one-on-one coaching. But, man, it was fun. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, when a guy made a bonehead play, like right off the bat, first play of the game, I Bleav it was Burrows, the freshman receiver.
Gordon,
he ran.
Sellers.
It was at Sellers. Okay, it was Sellers. Man, I need to fix that in my story. Sellers, though, runs off the line, and he runs the wrong route. And then Vizina throws the ball where it's supposed to be, which, by the way, is probably a catch and run for a touchdown if he runs the wrong route. Well, Dabo let everybody in the stadium know that was on the receiver. He's like, yeah, your freshman receiver just made a boneheaded play. Your freshman receiver just did a bust. He's supposed to go this way, and he went that way, and I thought, like, oh, wow, it's going to be this kind of scrimmage today. Right off the bat, like, boom, that's the first play of the game. And then, like I said, later on, he got on to Elliott Washington for going inside instead of outside, and if he goes or the other way, whatever, if he uses the other hand, it's probably a pick six. He's going for a touchdown. Instead, it was a long pass completion to Juju at that time. So, that was a couple of them. He got on to Ronan O'Connell for a holding. Got on to Sammy Brown. Woo, he let Sammy Brown have it for that late hit out of bounds. Ooh, man, he said, hey, everybody, that was Sammy Brown. He got the late hit out of bounds. That was Sammy Brown. That was your All-American linebacker. Just like, whoa, and then, and then I probably
I know exactly what you're going to say.
The guy who caught the most of his raft was one Nolan Hoosier. And now I'm going to give you some background as to probably why that's the case. Because at the scrimmage a couple weeks ago, Dabo was not happy with one Mr. Hoosier because he missed a couple of field goals in that scrimmage. And Dabo said that he thought he was already on vacation, on spring break, as Dabo said.
Nolan Hoosier's on spring break right now, y'all.
Yeah.
He didn't come to practice today.
Yeah, it was just like, we're like, okay, And the next day, now this scrimmage, which is the second one they had, today he missed a 47-yard field goal right before halftime. And Dabo didn't realize he still had the mic on. He said, that was bad. That was just bad. And we're like, okay. And he didn't mean for that to be broadcasted, And then later on, they have a fourth down around the 35-yard line, I think it was. And the orange team did. And Dabo elected to go for it, and they didn't get it. And Dabo says, hold on a second before we do any more else. He's like, hey, Nolan, come out here. Let's see if you can make this kick. If I decided to have kicked it, let's see if you can make it. And he missed it wide right. And Dabo says, well, that just proved I made the right decision then, because that's what I needed to know, if I made the right decision by going for it. And I was like, ouch. Mm-hmm. Now, Hoosier did come back out later and make a 56-yard field goal, made up for it. But obviously Dabo is getting on to him because there's been some inconsistencies with him. And I think that was more, he definitely wanted to drive that point home to him going into the offseason, that he's got to get more consistent as a kicker.
Yes, that number one. And also number two, he knows the guys that he can very publicly pick on in that kind of way. And today, the biggest two recipients of that were Nolan and Sammy Brown. Nolan won you an ACC championship. Sammy Brown was a big part of that as well. He's your best defensive player. So those are the guys that he's going to take the next step and challenge, similar with your freshman wide receivers that he believes are going to be elite. He called them elite talents. That's who he's going to go after, right? Not the third team guys that are really working their hardest and trying. You didn't really hear him go after them as much. It's kind of your big time guys that he's pushing to be ready when the season starts. So that's also an indicator of how he feels about somebody. Because in the post game, somebody asked, "What's your concern level about Nolan?" He said, 0. He'll be fine. I don't have to worry about Nolan.
Yeah.
But he's challenging him, and that's what you do as a coach.
Absolutely. All right. You're going to throw some comments up here, Ashby. So we got one right here from Jerry Wright. Denson wasn't even given a chance to show what he could do today because they put him with the scrubs. They could have at least given him a couple of series with the first or second string. Nobody can convince me that he wasn't better than the Bradley kid is who he's talking about, even if he got some reps with the orange team. All right, Jerry, appreciate your comments, man. And all you guys keep throwing those in there. I know I got a lot to go through here, and we're going to try to as we can. All right, Ashby, I disagree with Jerry there, though. I thought the reason he was playing the way he is because he hadn't played well in practice. And Dabo said, Jerry, in the post game, so you know the reference, Dabo was asked about that, about his playing time and like why was he playing basically as a fifth-string quarterback. And he says because that's what he deserved. And that means in practice he hasn't played well. And Dabo even said that he's not playing from a passing standpoint at this level to where he can compete. That was his exact words. He can't practice. He can't throw the ball at this level to compete. He's behind. He needs to develop as a passer. That's why he was fifth. That's why he was playing with the scrubs today, because that's what they're seeing in practice. So they had to move him in that situation. It's all about who's playing the best at the time. And right now, as a passer, he cannot compete with the other guys on the roster. Your thoughts?
Yes. That is not a decision, I don't think, that was probably made today based on the one series with the scrubs, right?
Right.
This is something that is accumulated over however long. And here's the difference between a Brock Bradley and a Chris Denson. This is just me thinking out loud. Chris Denson has already had a year of being Taj Boyd's project, where his primary focus has been on to develop him, prime him to be ready to play. He had an opportunity in a game last year, right? He's already a year. I don't know if he was a mid-year. I don't think he was. At least a year ahead of.
Yeah, he was a mid-year, by the way, last year.
Okay, a year and a half. He has more time than a Brock or a Tate. And if those guys have both come in and have immediately shown that they have more upside, that they have more of a chance to play quarterback for Clemson, then I think it's doing Chris Denson a disservice to continue to kind of string him on if they don't think it's going to happen, right? If they think he needs to transition to another role, if they think his passing isn't where it needs to be, because he's already had a year and a half on these guys. And if they came in straight from high school ready to go, that it seems like it is. And I agree that that's kind of a tough thing to say after the transfer portal window, after the spring. That's the decision they made. And it just looks like Reynolds and Bradley have a better chance in the future to be a quarterback at Clemson.
I agree with everything you said there. I just think right now, by what they saw in practice is why they brought them in to play the way they did today. And so I know some people out there, let's be honest, probably the loudest cheers were for Chris Denson when he came out there.
The whole day.
Yeah.
The whole day.
And I understand it because the fans saw him against Furman, but guys, he went off against Furman's backups. I mean, let's be honest here. I mean, not to discredit what he did, but not to discredit what he did. Well, Chris Brazina also went against their starters. Like by that time, Furman was pulling some players, and they were letting other guys play that hadn't had a chance to play too. So there was some of that. I'm not saying all of them were, but I'm just saying he wasn't playing against the same guys Brazina did. Totally. Okay, and not that Brazina should have looked better in that game. First of all,
right. I understand the frustration there because CV didn't look great.
Because CV didn't look good at all. But, yes, but this sense, Yeah, Denson, you gotta take it all into account. And also in that game, yeah, he looked great running the ball, 110 yards, 2 touchdowns, rushing touchdowns. But guys, he was 4 for 4 for 22 yards. Didn't throw a pass longer than 7 yards. Let's put it in perspective. Coaches are watching him in practice every day. I think Chad Morris knows a thing or two about quarterbacks. I don't know. Taj Boyd, Deshaun Watson. I think he's pretty good at evaluate quarterbacks. I'm just gonna leave it there with those two guys. All right. Shannon Moore, he says that freshman Tate Reynolds should clearly be the starting quarterback in his opinion. Well, Shannon, first of all, appreciate your opinion, buddy. I really do. But I don't agree with it. Right now, I don't think he's clearly the starter. I think, they're right now in a situation where they're trying to figure out who's the starter. I'm not saying that he won't be the starter by the LSU game. I'm not saying he won't be the starter at some point in the season. I'm just saying, like right now, I haven't seen anything CV has done to lose the job at this point in this point of the competition. He's been pretty solid in practice from what coaches have told us. He's doing everything. And the thing that really stands out about CV through this whole spring practice is how players have said how he's led the team and how the team has gravitated to him.
Yes.
That is probably one of the ultimate compliments you can get is when players are saying they've gravitated to him. Not that he's demanding they follow him or anything. They're kind of going to him. And so I think that says a lot about CV and where he's at in his preparation right now, too, because they're seeing Ashby, his work ethic. They're seeing how he's handling things and how he's handling this competition. And I think so far his teammates have been impressed with him, as has the coaches.
And he came out and gave, I think, the best interview of the whole spring to the media, in which he said, I love Clemson. I want to be at Clemson. There's a reason I didn't leave. I want to be the guy. And, you can sit here and say that's talk. That doesn't translate if you're, not the best quarterback. But if he already has the pole position, he's very well liked by his teammates, and he's speaking from that place of authority. I think that's something that a true freshman coming in can't really speak to on that level, and that's going to translate to the coaching staff. That's going to translate to a Chad Morris who's just coming in and a Dabo Swinney who's watched him grow up, right? And that off the field side is so crucial coming off of a disappointing season as well, because who are you going to turn this thing around? And if that's a true freshman, outstanding. But Tate Reynolds didn't look light years above Christopher Vizina in the way he would need to for his physical attributes to get over the mental side of CV.
Totally 100% agree. By the way, my friend Mark Wells there, special buddy, checking in. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate you, buddy, as always. Mark out in Oklahoma, living out there, causing problems. Me and Mark and a couple other of us, when we get done with the spring game, Ashby, we don't come back and do an instant replay of spring game. We'd probably head over to the SO and have a few cold ones. That's what we normally would do back in the day. So good to hear from you, Mark. Man, we got to call and catch up later on. Let's see. We had all spring, didn't get the job done. I don't know what that means. I think talking to somebody else. Let's see. Let's see what we got here, Ashby. Gotta love this is like live stuff at the I love to do. Yes.
While you're looking for something, I want to implore everybody that's watching to go watch the video on the ClemsonInsider.com's YouTube page of Elliott Washington's interview after the game. Will, were you over there for that?
I was the one interviewing. Yeah.
I think that any kind of apathy that was so frustrating to watch last year, there's not a shred of that in him. He came over and said, I want to be the guy. I am bringing competition to the highest level. I am holding myself to a different standard. And that's translated to what the coaches have said about him, right? All we've heard all spring is Elliott Washington. So if you want to kind of get to know the face behind who everybody's raving about, he was pretty impressive today. And you can tell really brings some competition to that room.
Absolutely. Very good point. Also, if you're over there, if you're on our YouTube page, won't you click the like and subscribe button? We appreciate that as well. And by the way, Ashby, this means good. This is good. It's not passive aggressive like some people in your generation think. Anyway,
okay.
You never know where I'm going, do you?
Man, it's like, all right, sidebar. When I sent my dad something that I think is really funny and he just responds with a little manual ha, it makes me think he doesn't think it's funny. Or when he just sends me the manual thumbs up. Listen, I think it's fun. That's a generation gap.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, as the generation your dad's in, that means he liked it.
He probably laughed really hard.
It was good, and he laughed hard. So, just letting you know.
Thank you.
There's that
ambassador.
I just closed the generation gap right there. Just closed it in one conversation. Anyway, it took us all of 1 minute. I like this from Jeff. Jeff Browder on Facebook says, last 5 spring games have had a negative taste in our mouth for QB play. Much better today for both guys. You know what, Jeff? You're right.
That's such a good point.
It's a very good point. Like, I left there today, didn't feel negative at all about the quarterback situation. Really didn't. Didn't think anything bad of it. Didn't think, well, I thought, Vizina looked good. I thought he, like I said earlier, looked comfortable in the pocket. I loved the feet, the way he was moving, just the way he was managing the offense. By the way, we're going to talk about the muddle huddle here in a second too. And then I thought Tate Reynolds looked good too. Like I said, a couple freshman moments where he kind of walked himself into a couple sacks, but other than that, I thought he looked pretty good. So yeah, Jeff, good analysis there. I appreciate that.
And another good point off of that, too, is in the last few years, there was no question about who the starter was going to be. It was going to be Cade the last 2 years, regardless of how anybody played in the spring game. And so he got pulled so quickly, it kind of felt a little bit pointless because what you were seeing wasn't what the offense was going to actually be, right?
Exactly.
So today, you got CV and Tate Reynolds playing long periods of time. They both got several drives. And they kind of got to settle into it a little bit instead of, all right, 1 and out. So that was fun, too, to actually get to see them work and get to see them settle in instead of just, oh, we know he's the starter. He's done.
He's out.
He's out. He's good. He's fine.
Get out of here. Get out of here. No, very good points. And Jeff, appreciate you bringing that to our attention because that is accurate.
Great.
The Ashby, the muddle huddle. Remember today on Tiger pregame, we were talking about how they were going to try to get in and out. And Kwok says, he thought maybe Chad would do something that, we're not used to seeing and how he would try to get the play in fast and get things done. We saw a little bit of it with the muddle huddle.
We did.
Ran a lot of the muddle huddle today, and the offense seemed very efficient, getting itself in and out of plays. What are your thoughts on the muddle huddle?
It was fun to watch. It was kind of my first experience watching Clemson do that live, and it was fun to see it actually translated. We've heard a lot about this new offense, the Chad Morris offense. Seeing stuff like that was pretty cool. Will, did you get flashbacks watching that?
Well, no, because they didn't do much of the muddle huddle when Chad was here before. I mean, they did it some, but they didn't do it like they did today. Well, maybe today he was doing it intentionally, because they didn't want to show their hand too much. But no, I remember in the past with Chad, it's like, oh my gosh, I can't keep up. It's like, because he's going too fast. I'm like, what happened on that last play? That's generally where I'm at on that. But today he's doing the muddle huddle, which they got up there fast. So there was a sense of urgency. There was no messing around. They got into their little muddle huddle, got the play, and then they were on the ball probably with 20 seconds to go, and they were ready to go. Like there was no messing around. Play was over. They get up and they were ready. They were in the muddle huddle. I mean, they were like fast. So that was very similar in the sense of doing that, but doing the muddle huddle as much as they did.
Yeah.
That's what kind of caught me off guard a little bit. And so I'm wondering if that's the attack or not. Like that's how he's going to attack. And if you notice, there wasn't, and I could be wrong because, we're doing 300 things at once when we're up there. I could be wrong, Ashby, but I didn't see, for the most part, I didn't see much substitution either. And so if the offense doesn't substitute, guess who doesn't also substitute generally? The defense. Now,
guess who's going to get tired?
Yes, and so I did notice that in there at times that there wasn't as much substituting, like they're kind of going with who they had. Now that might have also been the case, Ashby, because they had small rosters and you kind of had no choice but to go with who you had. You know, I can't believe we forgot this though. Hello, tight ends, welcome to the passing game. Oh my gosh, it was 2011 again. I mean, how many? Let's look. I'm gonna see how many passes these. How many they got? Let me look at the game track here. Let me look at the stats here. In receiving, Bentancur had 4 catches for 45 yards. Yes, the tight end had 4. I don't think a tight end all of last year had 4 catches. I don't really think so.
No, and I said it till I was blue in the face in every article I wrote. It feels like that they were being underutilized. Christian Bentancur is the prototype of a guy that could be a really successful tight end. He's big, he's fast, he's an athlete. I think he played like 72 different positions in high school.
Mm-hmm.
He's got really good hands. So I was waiting and waiting and waiting last year for him to get opportunities, and it felt like they never came. Same thing with Olsen, who didn't play today, but it was cathartic almost to see those guys get the opportunities that I think that they deserve and capitalize on them. Obviously, with what do you say, 45 yards?
Yeah. So today, total tight ends,
Okay.
all 4 tight ends that played, 7 catches, 56 yards, and let's see how many targets did they get. Let's see. We got 2 targets there. 1 target, so that's 3 targets there. Let's see, and then let's see.
I appreciate the live math you're doing. I feel like I'm a part of you writing an article.
Yeah, yes, right. This is what it's like. Yeah, so 10 targets altogether, 7 catches, 56 yards, 10 targets altogether to the tight end today in the scrimmage. I'm all about that, Ashby. Give me 10 targets to my tight ends, and I'm all about it. I mean, that's Chad Morris's offense in a nutshell right there. He's going to try to find – everybody's like, well, why is he – I think it was Sam that asked me, like, why does he throw to the tight end? Here's why he throws to the tight end. Because if your tight end's catching the ball and they're getting 60-something yards, 70-something yards in receiving, guess what happens? The safety and the linebackers got to move over. They got to guard that guy now. They got to worry about that guy. That's one less guy, and I hate to say it, the proverbial box. That's one less guy in the box to stop the run. It opens up the run lanes. You get more of a running game. And if you're really good at throwing to the tight end and it's a problem and they know going into the game, you don't even have to worry about the box because they're going to be counting on the tight end anyway. So it does so much to your offense. That's why when they had Dwayne Allen, and they had Sammy Watkins, and they had Nuke Hopkins, and they had Andre Ellington. That's why they were so doggone good.
Yes.
Because they threw to those tight ends, and tight ends allowed things to get open down the field. And that's why Sammy and Nuke, it looked like we're always running wide open because they had single coverage because the safeties and linebackers are having to worry about the tight end and running back. And that's what you want. That's how you want to do it. And I loved it today. I loved watching it and seeing those tight ends.
You know what it reminds me of?
What's that?
Reminds me of in basketball, right? When you're a 3-point shooting team and all you want to do is knock down threes, but the other team knows that and they're all up in your face. What do? You get it inside after the guy goes up a couple times, gets to the free throw line, punishes you down there, then they have to go cover them, then your threes are open. It's the same principle. It really is. If you do something that's unexpected, then it gets your stars open. And it all goes back to Chad Morris saying, we're going to get the ball to our playmakers. And how do you free them up? You get the ball to the tight ends.
Yep. Michael said yawn. I don't know if you're yawning at me, Michael, or you're yawning at our show, or if you're yawning at the idea of tight ends. Give me a little more what you mean. The day spring game was a yawner. Give me just an idea of what you're thinking there, buddy. I appreciate it. I like this from Eric. It's a good question or a good comment, and I have no problems with it. He said, I would like to see Chris Denson transfer to another program that will be willing to give him a shot. Wouldn't be surprised to see him transfer. Eric, you're right. I think that's fine too. And I think that would be fair. But here's the situation. As for this year, he can't transfer. If he leaves the team now, then he is going to have to sit out the year because the transfer window doesn't open until after the season's over right now. So he's really kind of stuck at Clemson for the moment. I say make the best of a situation and try to be as beneficial to your team as possible. Whether that's being the fifth string quarterback and you're the scout team guy and you got to make the other team, you got to help them get the defense ready for the other team's quarterback, or if it means you switch a position and become a playmaker somewhere else in the meantime. I say make the best of a situation, and then at the end of the year, if you want to transfer, you transfer. And I have no problem if he wants to go do that.
This is the kind of situation where I'm glad that there is a transfer portal if he wants to use that. If Chris Denson decides I have no interest in being a wide receiver or a running back or whatever position they want to put him in potentially, if he says I love being a quarterback, then I hope he gets the opportunity to go do that somewhere, because you watch his high school film, he's got a lot of upside, got a lot of promise there. And I could see a lot of other schools being happy to have him as their signal caller. But yeah, I understand why it's a tough situation, but you brought in two really good freshman quarterbacks, and that's the nature of competition, and that's the nature of college football at a high level.
It is. Again, I'm waiting to see what other gentleman we had up there. He said it was a yawn. I don't know if he means the spring game or just me and you were boring, Ashby. I don't think we're boring, but you never know.
To each their own.
Yeah, each their own. Andrew here, he had a blast at the spring game. Coach Morse signed my hat after the game, and I'm not gonna lie, I freaked out. He signed my daughter's phone case, and I'm still amped up just from getting to talk to him for about a minute. Got right up to Vizina, and they pulled him. Got up to Benchicure, and they pulled him. Got up to Hannif, and they pulled him. Got up to Tristan Smith. You guessed it. They pulled him into – but it was an awesome day nonetheless. Andrew, glad you guys had an awesome day. To me, Ashby, that is what the spring game is about, though.
Yes.
I was a kid. I know you don't know this, Ashby. So it wasn't called meeting at the paw or whatever they call it now. I don't know. Is that what it's called? I can't remember if that's what it's called. It was just you go out on the field with your dad, mom, and you go meet your favorite player and you get an autograph, or you get maybe their wristband or their headband or a glove or whatever you can grab from them that they give you. I still got a couple from when I was a kid, and those are things that you hold on to. And I remember when I see those things, I remember my dad, my stepdad, and what a special moment was being with him in those moments and him getting to do that with me. Right. And so to hear Andrew talk about that and have his daughter there and get the autograph. And I hate, Andrew, that they pulled the players and they have to go in because they got to talk to us idiots. And not talking about Ashby, I'm talking about me. So that you can blame it on me. That's why they pull them, because they got to come in and talk to us and stuff like that, and talk to the head coach and all that as Dabo gets the team together. But yeah, man, thanks, Andrew, for that. Because that's what it's about. That's what the spring game's about. That's what meeting at the paw's about. I hate it when people's like, oh, they always rush onto the field at Clemson. I'm like, no, you're an idiot. You didn't do any research before you made that comment, because they don't rush onto the field. They do this after every game, and it's about meeting your favorite player. And it's those little kids out there that you guys don't seem to know anything about, getting to meet their favorite player and get an autograph or get that wristband or that shoulder, headband, and take it home and keep it for the rest of their lives and just have good memories about their mom and dad. That's what it's about. Right, Ashby?
Yeah. As a daughter that got into sports entirely because of my dad and watching games with my dad in person and on TV, and, us picking out our favorite players together, the fact that in today's day and age where everything's so commercialized, that still exists at Clemson, and you guys got that opportunity to go down there and got to bond today and got to be in the stadium. I think it's a really special thing, and I'm very happy that Clemson does still do a spring game for that reason. And the vibes are really great. You had a lot of different events going on in the upstate today. You had baseball, softball, football, and
golf.
To have families be able to go to all of that, spend the day together. It was really special and something I'm really grateful I get to be part of.
Yeah, it just ended the day at Clemson. Lacrosse just finished a little while ago.
Did they win?
I don't know if they won or not. I didn't check the score since we got
Let's
on,
check.
but they started at 7, so I figured they're probably pretty much done now or close to being done, right, Ashby? You've covered a lot of lacrosse matches, you know.
They're longer than you think.
Really?
They are.
Yeah.
They go on for a minute.
It is
Let's
gathering
see.
at the Paul. That's right. Thank you, Alan. I appreciate you reminding me of what some reason sometimes I just don't think of it as a name because it wasn't a name when I was a kid. It was just you go out on the field after the game with your dad, and he's holding your hand and you're just trying not to get lost in the crowd. But at the same time, you're looking up these massive human beings and you're just like, oh my gosh. And they're already tall, Ash, because me and you like see them every day around them. They're already large human beings. But when you're like 6, 7, 8 years old and you're looking
and you
up
see
at
Braden
those guys,
Jacobs?
oh my goodness. You're thinking there really are giants, aren't there, Dad? You just, so it's just a great tradition at Clemson. And I'm glad they get to keep doing it. And it just people respect it for what it is. And I always tell the new students that come in because they don't know that and they rush the field and they act like idiots. I'm like, dude, that's not what this is about. This isn't about you coming on the field acting like a stupid idiot, trying to make somebody on the other team get mad or something. Get out of here with your stupid self. That ain't what this is about. This is about family, and that's what Clemson's about, the Clemson family. That's what makes it special. So real quick before we get out of here, Ashby, want to give your thoughts on just the what is this, your third spring game now? And your thoughts covering it, and maybe it's your fourth spring game. I can't remember how we count it. It might have been your fourth.
This is my third one working, my fourth
Okay.
one that I've attended.
Okay, there you go. Your thoughts on the spring game and just what you saw today, and then we're going to get on out of here.
I saw a lot of good, a lot of positivity from players on the sideline, from the coaches, a lot of progress in the right direction, guys that brought high intensity communication, quarterbacks that are fighting, wide receivers that are fighting, running backs that are fighting for a starting role. And you know what? You still got a lifetime before September 5th in Baton Rouge, but with a new offensive coordinator, all ACC veterans gone from last year, I think you're in as good of a spot as you can be if you're Clemson football right now. And so personally, I was pretty encouraged.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave with I was more encouraged after what I saw today than I was going into the spring, especially at the quarterback position. Still some work to do, as Dabo said. They're definitely not done.
Oh, yes.
But I liked what I saw from the receivers. I liked what I saw from the running backs. I liked what I saw from the offensive line. The defense, again, they didn't look bad. I mean, there's no busted coverage. Nothing really stood out. It's just hard to really judge the defense today. I'm going to be honest with you. But they've had a great spring from everything we've heard, and I think you're going to see much, much improvement there, especially in the secondary. So overall, I think coming out of the spring, a little encouraged about next year. Now, I'm not saying, like we in Quackenbush does, the road to the national championship begins with the Bleav in Clemson podcast. But I do think maybe the road to an ACC championship game appearance could begin here. And I think that was the first step today. And they got a tough schedule. Remember, not playing East Teboga Community College, start the season off there, Ashby.
Sisters of the poor. No.
Ashby, from somebody from Alabama, tell us where East Teboga is.
I don't even know. The first time I heard Dabo say that, I was like, why do I know what that is? And then I'm like, right, because you're from Pelham. Right, we see each other. Okay. Yeah, that's one of my favorite. That's one of my personal favorite Daboisms is East Teboga Community College. I invite everyone to put that into their vocabulary.
Yes, East Teboga Community College. And by the way, it's spelled just like it sounds, so it's easy to figure out.
We don't complicate things down there. No, we don't.
You do not. So that's going to do it for us today. We appreciate you guys joining us on the Bleav in Clemson podcast presented by FanDuel. We're going to be back. I'll be back again on Tuesday. I'll have my ugly sidekick, Alex Dodd, with me as we kind of break down some more things from the spring game, and we'll we'll kind of dive into stuff there. So check that out. But for right now, I want to thank Ashby Mixon for being with me here. Like I said, something we might be doing come football season. So I look forward to doing the show and doing it with Ashby and anybody else that'll be with us. We might have a couple more with us as well as we break down each and every game from the Clemson football season. So for Ashby Mixon, I'm Will Vandervort. We'll talk to you next time on Bleav in Clemson Football.